Hello everyone, hope that you're all well. Welcome to our How to Reduce Over-Servicing webinar. I'd just like to start by checking that you can all hear me clearly enough and that you can see my screen in the background. If anybody's having any trouble with the audio or the visuals on the screen, if you could just pop something in your toolbar that you should have for GoToWebinar, that would be great. I'll just give it a couple of seconds. If I don't have anything come through, I'll assume that all is well and continue. Okay, so I've not had anything through, so I'll assume that you can all hear me and see my screen clearly enough. Okay, so I'd like to start by introducing who we are and what we're going to be discussing today. So for those of you that don't already know who we are, we're the Agency Works, and we work alongside of Synergist, the project management system. So not only do we implement the system, we also work very closely with our clients' agencies, looking into things like business process, techniques, and also some challenges that they may be encountering, obviously over-servicing being one, which is the reason that we're putting on today's webinar. So welcome to some of our clients I know we've got on the session today as well. And welcome to those of you that may be new to whether it be Synergist or us here at the Agency Works. We not only provide the project management system, but we do also do consulting on its own. So we may also have some clients in here that aren't using the system, but that do use our consulting services as well. So welcome to you. So today we're going to be focusing on two main topics, those topics being why are agencies over-servicing, and then we're going to look at how can over-servicing be reduced. So before we get started, I'd just like to show you one of our latest survey results. This is from the Agency Food Group. It's for like-minded individuals to discuss challenges within agencies. So if any of you do want to get involved in that, head over to LinkedIn and just search the Agency Food Group. I think it's just the Food Group actually, and you should be able to get involved with that. As you can see, some of the biggest challenges within agencies are, if we look to this area here where my mouse is, we've got over-servicing, and we've also got increase in profitability, which comes in second for the biggest financial challenges. Now, over-servicing and increase in profitability do come hand in hand together. So if you're over-servicing a number of your accounts, a number of your jobs, that will have an impact on profitability of the business, whether it be maintaining the same profitability when you're trying to grow, or it may be a reduction. But if you're over-servicing quite drastically, the chances of increasing profitability, that can be a challenge. Over-servicing, we actually do the survey, I think it's each quarter, and over-servicing always comes up top. So if you guys who are listening are suffering with over-servicing, trust me, you're not alone there. So the first area that I'm going to focus on is why are agencies over-servicing. So from working with agencies combined, we've got probably over 50 years experience, and these are the top 6 main reasons in which we see over-servicing encountering. So first of all, the agency is not selling enough hours. So within any agency, I'm going to show you some nice calculations of this later on in the webinar, but within an agency, obviously the main factor is selling your time. So you might have designers, developers. We need them to hit potentially a particular utilization in which they will be selling chargeable hours. So if we have, say, 10 staff and we want them to be 80% utilised, we have a set number of hours in which we need to sell as an agency for them to achieve that target. If we aren't selling those hours, they're not going to achieve that target. Therefore, we won't be billing as many hours as we anticipate. So that's quite a big one. That's looking at the real initial stages, so the planning behind the scenes of any agency. You've also then got inaccurate estimating. So this is more down to the day-to-day sort of business processes, I guess, behind any agency. So an inaccurate estimate can have huge significant cost implications. So if we are, ways in which we can reduce this are tracking our estimate versus our actual, but also doing things like having our internal estimate and having an external quote. So there's some of the areas that I'll be discussing today as well. That's actually a really big one. Inaccurate estimating. A lot of people think that over-servicing occurs when the job has actually started. Sometimes it occurs way before then. So having an accurate estimate, you know, even if that changes along the way slightly, if the brief changes, having an accurate estimate can drastically reduce any over-servicing on that particular job. Spending too much time on a job, this is something that could be due to things like client moving the goalpost, which actually is a reason that I'll have on this list in a minute. But spending too much time on a job, again, this can also be an implication from the agency not selling enough hours. So if there aren't enough hours coming through, the creative team, you know, they'll carry on working on what's in front of them rather than sitting there twiddling their thumbs, which I know in any agency that is very, very, very unrealistic. But spending too much time on a job, things like you know, not being allocated a set number of time, not having a specific due date, you know, being told that you've got 2 hours to do this job, but actually just being given the job and leaving them to their own devices, that can sometimes cause spending too much time on a job. So having a nice set process in place, you know, having your scheduling your hours from your estimate and ensuring that the studio or creative team get that. And that they can say if they need more hours, or they can say if they've gone over, or they can say if they've done it in you know, less time in which they've been estimated, is a nice way to track that. You've also got human error. Now, this can't always be helped. We are all only human. Everybody makes errors sometime. What we can do, though, is ensure that it's not occurring too often. So we can do things like spot patterns with this. Now, with human error, it may be that if a particular resource, you see that there is a lot of human error and this is causing some of the over-servicing, perhaps it's that we need a bit more training internally, or perhaps you know, they're being given the wrong jobs. But anyway, spotting that pattern and ensuring that you've got visibility on that can help reduce that human error to an extent. So the next one is using a different resource. So it may be that you've scheduled for a particular resource, but actually that person, whether it be they're working on something that's gone overdue, or that's come in last minute, and actually we've got another resource that has stepped in. Due to the, you know, different charge rates and the amount of time it will take different resource to do a piece of work, this can also be a cause of over-servicing. And then finally, again, I'd probably say this is also one of the biggest ones, is the client moving the goalposts. So this is something that is really, really hard to reduce. There are processes that can be put in place to help this. It is something that's always going to occur. But what you can do is you can manage that. So although it might be hard to stop your client moving the goalposts, if that's just how they are, what you can do is you can perhaps add a bit more on at the estimating stage. So if you spot a pattern on a particular client that is always moving the goalposts, but they're a loyal client, you don't want to lose them, they're a nice profitable client, things that you can do are, you know, have particular resource spending time on those jobs, or potentially, as mentioned before, add a bit more time into the estimate, because you know that client and you know that they do move the goalposts quite a lot, potentially even using things like revised copies of estimates as well based on the brief. And then you've got your commercial selling price as well, which you may again have added a bit more value to due to that reason. So again, ensuring that you've got the ability to spot those patterns. Today, as I'm going through, I will be using Synergist, the project management system, as an example on how you can gain some of this visibility and how you can reduce some of these reasons for over-servicing. So for those of you that are new to it, it doesn't matter whether you're using Synergist or whether you're using a different tool. Following a few nice clean processes should be able to help with this. Some of you that are using Synergist, if you'd like more information on this, if you'd like a couple of sessions to look at particular areas that I show within the system, obviously feel free to contact us afterwards and we can arrange that. So the second topic is, how can over-servicing be reduced? So we now know some of the main reasons why let's now take it back to the initial stages and let's have a look at how it can be reduced. So to begin with, I want to discuss getting it right at the initial stages. As mentioned previously, a lot of people think that over-servicing is caused when the job has already turned live, which technically it does, but the reason behind the over-servicing can sometimes be because of the initial stages. So this is a quote from it was a board meeting actually with a number of agencies within London that I attended last year, and one of the quotes is, a bad brief will have significant cost implications. So ensuring that you have understood the brief, you know exactly how long based on that brief we will need of the creative team, of the studio team, whether it be a digital team, design team, PR team, even having conversations with them. So communication at those initial stages is really key as well. You've also got I guess even before then, before the jobs start coming in, is selling enough hours. So ensuring that you've got new business processes in place to enable hours to be falling through into the studio creative team. The briefing, estimating, quoting process, which I've just discussed, and then also scheduling from the estimate. So once you have hopefully got a nice and accurate estimate in place, you've got enough hours coming through the business, your estimates are nice and accurate, ensuring that we're actually feeding that into the creative team and the studio team nice and accurately is also very, very key, because we could have the best process in place. We've got loads of new business and current client business coming through and retained business, and we've got our estimates down to a T. But if we're not putting those estimates correctly into our studio and creative team, they then could, record too many hours against the job, and that's going to cause you over-servicing. So literally get it right at the initial stages and it will have a massive, massive help. So here's a small calculation of when we're looking at how many hours do we need to sell within the agency. I'm sure you've all got this in the background, but this is just a nice example of how you can use things like utilization targets. So you might have, in this case, I've got 15 different resource. You can see you've got different roles. Each of those roles have got different utilization targets. That will then calculate the number of hours, in this case 311, per week that we need to sell within the business. So you might want to track that more on a monthly, quarterly basis, but that gives us a good visibility on also the profitability. So what revenue do we want? If we achieve this, what revenue will be achieved per week as well? Or, obviously with the billing plans and things, that might be slightly different, but that's a nice, like I said, basic example. You've also then got your estimating. So your estimate should always be a true reflection of what's actually needed. So going back to the client's brief. So you've got a brief given from either a client or a prospect. Your estimate should be an internal budget. So who do we need? What time do we need? So what resource do we need? How long do we need them for? And what are the charge rates against each of those? What we've then got is we've got our external quote. So quite often what we see, I'll give an example of a bad process for this. So quite often, if let's say the client has come to us with, so you've done your estimate and say it's 100 hours, what we're going to sell this job for. What sometimes happens is the client will come to us and say, okay, actually, could you do it for 90 hours, or can we have some sort of discount, perhaps new business discount, whatever the reason being. If that value needs to reduce for whatever reason, sometimes people will start reducing the hours in the estimate. So we'll say, okay, yeah, that's fine, we'll sell it for 90 hours, more than happy to do so, for new business purposes. But what we're then doing is our capacity plans are going to be inaccurate. We're also not giving our studio and creative team enough time to actually do the work, so they are going to overservice. Whereas if we keep the 100 hours, even if we're not selling it for 100 hours, we still need 100 hours based on that client's brief. So in the quote, if we now say, right, okay, we're actually going to sell it for 90 hours, you can still track your profit margins and the differences, look at what was estimated, the actuals coming in, what was quoted, invoiced, look at all of the different analysis. However, for the job itself, to help reduce that over-servicing by keeping the estimate and the quote separate, that should do that. You know that your studio team have got a realistic number of hours given, your capacity plans are going to be nice and accurate. If something does go wrong now, you should have the ability to go in and say, okay, well, actually, what did happen here then? Because we estimated accurately. Commercially, we might have sold it for something different, whether we added value or reduced value, but we estimated accurately. So is it that the client's moved the goalpost? If it is, let's start ensuring that we track that client's jobs and then see if they're doing it on each of those, or perhaps it's the actual job type. It may be that if a particular job type keeps going over, then let's adjust the estimate on that job type. Let's do the estimate next time based on the actuals that happened last time. So ensuring that you've got the ability, something, whether it's a tool or an Excel document or a number of different tools in place, to track the estimate versus the actual. Obviously, that's a lot easier done within a full project management system like Synergist, is really key to that. So that actually does bring me on to the job tracking side of things. Now, I'm going to run through this slide and then I'm going to flip over, because I know we are running out of time. I'm going to flip over to Synergist and show you some nice live examples as well. So find out why we are over-servicing. So that's looking at those reasons in which I stated previously. Time recording and tracked against jobs daily. So ensuring that time is recorded daily will help to, if we are going to over-service on a job, help us potentially be able to either renegotiate, find out why, and reduce that risk. See if the client is moving the goalposts, if there was human error, if you used a different resource. So start spotting some of those patterns in which, again, I've stated previously. So if I'm just switch over to the system, looking at those initial stages, I'll show you a couple of examples here. So here is a typical graph in which you guys could either develop, or a lot of you will already have access to this if you're using the system, ensuring that you're tracking the hours available and that you've sold those hours. If you've got your new business incorporated into the system as well, or a system, you can also start, not only gaining visibility on that, but taking action. So, okay, we haven't sold enough hours, or we haven't sold the hours in which we have available this quarter. Let's have a look at our pipeline. So this is our new business as well. We know that we've got quite a few that we're in negotiation with. Let's try and get those pushed through to ensure that we've got the hours running through the business. Okay, otherwise people will just stay busy on work that they've got in front of them, which will lead to the over-servicing aspect. We've also then got our estimating quoting, and from the estimating and quoting, what we can also do, if I just select our Gantt view, this is a really typical example of a job, basic example, should I say, where I've got a job and I've broken it down into 3 phases. What I'm also doing is saying, okay, in the research phase, we might have 100 hours estimated within our estimate tab here. What we're doing now is saying, how long have we got to do those 100 hours? So we need to ensure that our studio team are being given not only a realistic number of hours, but also a realistic time frame. So have we got a week to do the 100 hours? Have we got a month? Have we got 2 months? What we can then do is, when looking at something like this, so a scheduling tool, ensuring that we've got here our jobs at the bottom, we've got an accurate due date, we've also got the accurate number of hours to drag and drop onto our resource, who can have that in a calendar. They've got a daily or potentially weekly allocation against them. They can then go into their timesheets, record the time against the jobs. You then have a really, really nice, almost like an agency hub, really, of all the live jobs running through the business, ensuring that these thermometer bars are always checked. So here, this one, for example, we've got a campaign for Fairy, and we can see that we're 51% of the way through our budget, and that's based on, so say if we estimated 100 hours, 50 hours have been recorded, or 51 hours have been recorded, it will show that we're 51% of our way through our budget. Ensuring that time's recorded daily will allow us to go in and check, okay, so we're 51% of the way through our budget. Are we actually 51% of the way through our work? If we aren't, then why aren't we? Is it due to some of those reasons? Is it because actually the client's moved the goalpost? Is it because that there's been some human error? So having everything in one place like this will also give you the ability to report on things like utilisation, hours sold, estimate versus actual on jobs, and also obviously the ongoing daily use of something like this, which is these job tracking thermometer bars. On our management dashboard as well, or again, whether you're using Synergist or something else, having something like this. So if I just quickly pop some dates in there to populate it for you all, we've got things like top clients. So this is where we can actually say, who are our top clients at the moment? So have an easy access to this. Let's have a look at our top clients. And so this one, for example, we can see that within a particular period, they're one of our top clients that we've got the highest turnover for. Let's ensure that we aren't over-servicing this client at all. Let's ensure that they're as profitable as they can be. Do you know what? If this is really eye-opening, actually, sometimes you might spot a client that you might not spot a client that you think should be in there. So we're continuously doing work for a particular client, but actually they're not appearing in here. Why is that? Is it because we're always doing work for them, but we're always over servicing their accounts? If that is the case, you've got some decisions to make there as a business potentially, or at least you've got the ability to make informed decisions based on that type of analysis. You might also have some clients in here that are becoming very, very profitable, and you can go in and you can potentially grow them. So you could offer them, different services as well. You can grow that client if you know that you're not over servicing their account or their jobs. They don't move the goalposts too much. So it's not only the day-to-day ensuring that we're not over servicing. Just to summarize, it's very much looking at the initial stages, right from selling the number of hours and estimating accurately, all the way through to the spotting patterns as well. So, like I keep saying, it's not always about the actual when the job's live. So much of the over-servicing side of things are initial stages, also analysing and gaining visibility to take action on why we're over-servicing. So unfortunately, we are running out of time, so I'm just going to do a quick summary of tips for you all. I have recorded the session, so if anybody wants me to send a recording across afterwards, then please do let me know, and as soon as that's all uploaded and put onto YouTube, I can send that across to you. Just drop me an email. Quick summary. So a bad brief and estimate will have significant hidden cost implications. Communicate at the planning stages. So even if you need to, speak to your creative team, speak to your studio team, see how long it'll take, or look at past jobs as well. Look at actuals on past jobs, and rather than doing it based on a templated estimate, do it based on the actuals. Input accurate information into the business, so ensure that your estimates are accurate and that you've got accurate timelines and durations against those estimates. Sell enough hours within the business, track time and notes against jobs, clients and staff. That will give you the ability to spot patterns and potentially do something about it. So here's my email address and our office number. So if you would like me to send a recording, just drop me an email. If you would like to have a discussion a bit more on either the system that you've seen that's been featured in this, or if you want to have just a general discussion around over servicing or the consulting that we offer, do contact me. More than happy to help. I hope that you all have a good rest of the day, and feel free to join any more of our free webinars, and I hope to speak to some of you soon. Thanks ever so much, everyone.